Inspired billionaire requests DNA test from cleaner. What he discovers changes everything forever. James McAllister, a name emblazoned in gold letters on the front of his skyscraper in New York City, had everything, or so it seemed. At 42, he was a self-made billionaire, known for his sharp mind and sharper business acumen. His office looked out over the sprawling metropolis, where the shimmering glass towers stood in stark contrast to the struggling neighborhoods just blocks away. Yet, amidst the luxury of tailored suits and expensive dinners, a hollowness echoed through his soul. It wasn't until that fateful afternoon when Maria, his cleaner, entered his life, that everything began to unravel. Maria was in her mid-30s, with eyes that sparkled, despite her weary frame. She was a single mother working tirelessly to provide for her 2 children in a cramped apartment. Her stories of sacrifice mixed with flickers of joy seemed to weave invisible threads, connecting her simple struggles to James's opulent existence. One afternoon, as she dusted the shelves of his office, her voice broke the silence with tales of her family's immigrant journey, dreams once so radiant now resting heavily on her shoulders. "Sometimes it feels like the dream is slipping away," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, but it struck James like a lightning bolt. Right then, he felt something shift within him, an unfamiliar urgency that pulled at his heart. Could he be connected to this strength she exhibited daily? On impulse, and against all reason, he ordered a DNA test. He felt an overwhelming need to understand who he truly was, to go beyond the wealth and status that seemed to define him. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. When the results arrived, they shattered his world. His heart raced as he read the report. Maria's late father was his long-lost brother. The shocking news hung like a dark cloud over him. Everything he believed about family, privilege, and self-made success crumbled. It was a raw revelation that forced him to confront his buried prejudices and question the very foundation of his life. With media outlets buzzing and social platforms igniting heated debate, James was thrust into the spotlight, a billionaire wrestling with an unexpected family link to someone who fought for every scrap of dignity. Maria's life was a testament to resilience, while his felt textbook in contrast. As they began to explore this newfound connection, James felt an intangible pull towards Maria's unwavering spirit. She was fighting the same fight, but in a different arena. Could they forge a bridge between their worlds? The question weighed heavily on him, caught between the remnants of his old identity and the dawning potential of a new one. He stood on the brink of an awakening. Could he redefine what family and success meant in a society so deeply divided? Would their alliance not just heal wounds but inspire change? The work ahead looked as daunting as the skyscrapers that surrounded him, but with hope flickering in his chest, he took a deep breath, ready to step into the unknown. James couldn't shake the weight of the DNA results, each moment dragging him deeper into contemplation. He paced his sleek office, the city skyline twinkling beyond the glass, a stark reminder of his world, a world now intertwined with Maria's in ways he could hardly comprehend. "James, you should address this," his assistant, Clara, suggested quietly, arms crossed as she leaned against the doorframe. "The media is waiting for you to say something. You can't just let this hang in the air." "I know, but what can I say? How do I explain that a single test turned my entire life upside down?" His voice matched the turmoil inside him. The idea of speaking publicly about Maria stirred something deep within: guilt, curiosity, perhaps even admiration. Clara pushed off the wall and walked over, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Maybe it's not just about you anymore. It's about her, too, her story, her struggles. People crave authenticity. Share it." Torn between the comfortable silence of his office and the chaotic life of the streets below, he dug his fingers into his palms. What was it about Maria that pulled at him? Was it merely their blood connection, or was there more? There was a bravery in her daily battle, and maybe, just maybe, he had something to learn from her. The next morning, he found himself standing outside the small, worn-down apartment building where Maria lived. His heart raced. He knew he should have called or sent a message, but the spontaneous route felt right. He wanted to see her, to understand her world better. As he approached the door, he hesitated. Would she want to see him? Would she understand the whirlwind swirling in his head? But before he could second-guess himself, the door swung open. Mr. McAllister. Maria's eyes widened, and her surprise quickly morphed into a wary smile. What brings you here? Can we talk? His words tumbled from his mouth, filled with urgency. It's important. In her cramped living room, surrounded by worn furniture and the comforting scent of home-cooked meals from the kitchen, Maria stood across from him, curiosity lighting her face. Is it about the test? He nodded, shame swirling in his chest. I didn't know how to handle it. I just kept thinking about your stories. About your family. About how I didn't even know I had one. She shifted, crossing her arms defensively. It's a lot to unpack, James. I'm still trying to figure out how to tell my kids they have a billionaire uncle. Her voice dipped, almost a whisper. A brother I didn't know existed. I want to help, he replied earnestly. But maybe we can do this together. I want to understand more about you, about your life. I'd like to get to know my family. His voice cracked with the weight of his sincerity. Maria's expression softened, but uncertainty lingered in her eyes. It's not just about family, Mr. McAllister. It's about the reality we live in. This isn't a fairy tale. I don't want you to think that because of this connection, everything changes for me. As he listened, he realized the depth of her words. Their worlds were as different as night and day, but the thread connecting them was fraying yet taut, ready to stretch into something new. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a journey he never anticipated. He took a deep breath, deciding to take the leap. Let us work together, Maria. Not just as family, but as allies to make a difference. We can use our stories to spark change. Her eyes glistened, surprise and maybe hope battling within her. And how do we even start? He smiled, feeling the first real spark of energy since he opened that DNA results report. By starting a conversation. About everything we can change together. As they spoke, each word revealing uncharted paths, James felt the air thicken with possibilities. Perhaps together, they could blend their two vastly different worlds into something meaningful. But deep inside, a question loomed. Would their shared journey into the unknown heal the divides that had kept them apart for so long? Would they truly find mutual understanding in the reader's elusive fairy tale? With that uncertainty hanging between them, James looked into Maria's eyes and saw reflection and hope. What came next would shape their lives, but would they both be ready for the ride ahead? James felt a rush of determination, his heart beating faster as Maria's gaze held his. He could see the conflict brewing behind her eyes, the mix of hope and caution shaping her thoughts. He took a step forward, closing the distance between them, sensing they were on the edge of something momentous. Let us not just talk about change. Let us make it real, he urged, his voice steady. Your stories, your struggles, they matter. They deserve to be heard. I want to use my platform to amplify your voice. Maria's brow furrowed, a flicker of doubt crossing her face. And what if it doesn't work? What if these worlds don't mesh at all? You're a billionaire, James. I'm just a single mom working 2 jobs. Our lives are completely different. That difference is exactly why we need to do this, he replied, his passion igniting. You add richness to my understanding of life, of family, and of struggle. I've been wrapped up in wealth and privilege, but I want to know what it really means to fight for something meaningful. Maria's defenses softened, her arms uncrossing ever so slightly. You really want to help? Even if it means exposing yourself to criticism? James nodded, feeling the weight of his decision settle over him. More than ever. If we can shine a light on the challenges people like you face, it might just make a difference. Isn't that worth the risk? They stood in silence, the hum of the city outside fading into the background as she considered his words. Maria sighed, her shoulders lowering as if finally letting go of some unspoken burden. It's a big ask, James, she finally said, the hesitation lingering like a shadow. But what can we achieve? How do we even start? James took a step back, inspiration lighting up his mind. Fundraisers, community projects, awareness campaigns. We can build a platform where your experience becomes a rallying cry for change. People won't just see you as the cleaner but as the powerful voice that you are. Maria's uncertainty was still there, but now it was mingled with a budding excitement. You really think people would care? Absolutely, he said fiercely. They relate to struggles, to real stories. Yours can inspire them. I've seen it happen before. Your courage can spark change. She chewed her lip, processing his words. But what if they judge you? The media can be brutal. Then let them. Let them talk. But I'll be right there with you. It'll be our story to tell, not just mine or yours. Together, we can show that nothing is impossible when you have the will to fight. As James looked at Maria, the tension eased between them, replaced by a glimmer of cooperation. It felt like the first step into a much wider world that awaited both of them. Okay, Maria whispered, her voice almost breaking with the weight of her decision. I'll do it. I'll share my stories. But we're doing this together, right? Together, he confirmed, a wave of relief washing over him. But just as hope began to take root, Maria's phone buzzed on the table, breaking their moment. She picked it up, her face falling as she read a message. Her eyes widened, and a frown creased her brow. James, I think we might have a bigger problem, she muttered, her voice suddenly laced with urgency. What do you mean? He asked, concerned as he leaned in closer. She dropped the phone onto the table, shaking her head. It's the media. They know I'm meeting you. There are rumors swirling around already. If we don't act fast, this could turn ugly. James felt a chill run down his spine. What have they found out? With a sense of impending chaos swirling around them, the narrative took on a sharper edge. Maria's relief was short-lived, and James could only wonder, suddenly fearful of the impact this journey might have. What more was at stake than just their newfound connection? And were they truly ready for the storm that lay on the horizon? Maria's phone buzzed again, pulling her from the depths of unease swirling in her mind. She stared at the screen, her fingers trembling slightly on the edge of the table. Let us see how bad it really is, she murmured, swiping through the notifications. James shifted, the tension in the room thickening as he watched her. What are they saying? He resisted the urge to reach out and comfort her, knowing this was her moment to share her fears. Maria's breath hitched as she read. They're speculating about our meeting. Some people think it's a publicity stunt. Others are just outright mocking me for even speaking to you. The pain in her voice was palpable, and James felt an ache of empathy deep within him. That's ridiculous, he said, anger bubbling beneath the surface. You have a story that matters. They can't ignore that. But how do we fight back against that? She questioned, her eyes darting away from the screen, filled with a mixture of determination and vulnerability. It's easy for them to look at me as just someone beneath you, without seeing the truth. Then we have to show them. We'll be the ones in control of this narrative, he said, grappling with the weight of her vulnerability. We'll tell your story, and it will resonate. You have more power than those headlines ever could. Her eyes searched his, and the gravity of their situation began to crystallize a real chance to challenge perceptions. But with it came the fear that this might consume their lives, dragging them into a harsh spotlight. What if it all goes wrong? Maria asked, her voice breaking slightly. What if I can't handle the backlash? James stepped closer, instinctively reaching for her hand. You won't be alone. I promise. We'll take this step by step. I wouldn't have asked if I thought you couldn't do it. His words wrapped around her like a warm blanket, but the doubt still lingered. It's terrifying. What happens if I share things that people don't want to hear? Then let that be the beginning of real conversations, he said. We need to talk about the struggles there's a purpose to it. And the truth can be incredibly freeing. With a fortified resolve, Maria took a deep breath, trying to cleanse the worries that clouded her mind. Okay, but we need a plan, she said, the fire of determination igniting in her eyes. We can't just bathe in hope and wait for the world to notice. James nodded, feeling the stirring energy between them again. Agreed. We'll write a press release together, then set up a meeting with community leaders. Let us build the foundation for our story the right way. Maria's heart raced with the prospect of action, but a knot of anxiety still twisted in her stomach. And what if it all backfires? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. James leaned in closer, his tone earnest. Then we fight harder. We hold our heads high and show everyone the strength of our message. No matter how loud the noise gets, we stand together. As they began brainstorming ideas for their movement, a newfound camaraderie blossomed between them. Their different lives woven together in a shared mission, but reality was about to throw them one more curveball. Maria's phone buzzed again, and she glanced at the screen. This time, it was not just notifications. It was a single message from an unknown number. Her heart raced as she read it, the words striking fear deep within her. Meet me tonight if you want to know the truth. The sentence hung heavy in the air. What truth? Who sent the message? Suddenly, the connection they had built felt precarious, like a tightrope above a dark abyss. Fear clawed at her gut, battling against the hope they had just ignited. James, she whispered, her eyes wide with realization. I think we might be in over our heads after all. What truth awaited them in the shadows? And how far would they go to uncover it? Maria's heart pounded against her ribcage as a wave of uncertainty washed over her. She clutched her phone like a lifeline, the screen flickering eerily in the dim light of the room. Who could this be? She asked, her voice trembling as she turned the phone towards James. He glanced at the message, a chill running down his spine. Do you know anyone who? He started, but then stopped. The truth was, he wasn't sure what to think. We need to be cautious. This could be a prank, or worse, someone trying to get to us. I know, she replied, biting her lip. But what if it's not? What if it's someone who really knows something important? James could see the conflict in her eyes, fear battling with an insatiable curiosity. He wanted to shield her from all the darkness out there, yet something inside him urged her to dig deeper. We can't ignore this, Maria. Whatever the truth is, we need to confront it together. Taking a deep breath, she felt a spark of resolve amidst her fears. You're right. I can't let this control me. I want to know what it is, and I want to face it head on. She looked back at the message, tracing the words with her finger. Maybe we should just go. Find out what they want to tell us. It might be crucial for our plans. But it could also be dangerous, he warned, furrowing his brow. We have no idea who we're dealing with. But we can't live in fear, Maria countered. If we're going to make a stand, we have to be brave. I'll message them back. The words left her mouth before she could rethink them. James watched as she began typing a response, his heart racing along with hers. They had stepped onto this roller coaster together, yet now it felt like the ground was slipping beneath them. She hit send and locked eyes with him, a mix of apprehension and defiance etched across her face. I can't let them intimidate me. This is my story, and I'm not going to back down. James nodded, admiration flooding through him. Okay, then I'm with you. Whatever happens tonight, we face it side by side. Just as she was about to respond to another notification, her phone buzzed again. It was a reply. Meet me at the old warehouse on Oak. Midnight. Come alone if you want the whole truth. A sense of dread settled over them both. Alone? Maria whispered, the word sounding more like a plea than a statement. I can't but you want to be alone, James interrupted firmly. I'm not leaving you to walk into something like this on your own. We need each other now more than ever. There's no telling what we could find out, Maria said slowly. Or who's waiting for us? What if they want to hurt us? The fear crept back into her voice. We'll stay alert. Trust your instincts, James urged, determination igniting in his eyes. And if it gets too dangerous, we leave. No questions asked. They shared a moment of silence, the weight of their unspoken fears lingering in the air. Maria's heart raced at the thought of the unknown. This was the moment they had to decide to stand strong, a point of no return. Let us gather our things and head out, she finally said, steeling herself. It's time we uncover this truth. As they prepared to leave, the thought of the confrontation churned in their minds, haunting yet compelling. Could this be the turning point they needed to forge their path? Or would the shadows swallow them whole? With the clock ticking down to midnight, they shared a glance filled with purpose. Hope and fear collided within them, intertwining into something larger. Whatever we find tonight, Maria whispered, we'll face it together. James nodded, his hand reaching for hers. Together. But as they stepped out into the night, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. What unseen eyes were following them into the darkness? And what secrets were bound to be revealed? The night air was thick with tension as Maria and James made their way toward the old warehouse on Oak Street. The streetlights flickered sporadically, casting shadows that danced like specters along the cracked pavement. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the very weight of their decision was pressing down on them. As they neared the warehouse, the dilapidated structure loomed ahead, its windows dark and clouded with grime. This place gives me the creeps, Maria muttered, her voice scarcely above a whisper. What are we even doing here? James squeezed her hand reassuringly. We're finding answers. Remember, we're in this together. Still, anxiety knotted in her stomach. What if this is a mistake? We could just walk away right now. Courage surged within her. She remembered what she'd told him earlier. They couldn't live in fear. Tonight was about taking control of their lives, about facing whatever truths lay hidden in the shadows. The last few steps felt like they were in slow motion, but Maria finally pushed the creaking door open, the noise echoing ominously all around them. The stale air hit them like a brick wall, filled with the scent of metal and something far more rotten, long-ignored secrets trapped within these walls. Hello. Maria called out, her voice trembling slightly. The silence that followed sank into her bones, and she took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. Maybe they're not here yet. Before James could respond, a figure stepped from the shadows, making Maria's heart leap into her throat. A tall man, dressed entirely in black, stood with his arms crossed, watching them carefully. Behind him, the faint light from the moon revealed a tangle of crates and debris, making the room feel even more claustrophobic. Glad you could make it, the man said, his tone flat and uninviting. You came alone, I see. No, I didn't. James responded defiantly. We're a package deal. The man's lips curled into a sardonic smile, revealing a disconcerting calm amidst the air of danger. Interesting. But it won't change the outcome. You're both curious about the truth, but sometimes it comes with a price. What do you mean? Maria asked, finding her voice despite the tightening grip of fear. What truth? Follow me. He beckoned, turning away and striding deeper into the warehouse. Shadows swallowed him up before they hurried after. The claustrophobic atmosphere turned even more suffocating as they moved further inside, with only the faint light from a single bulb swaying from the ceiling illuminating their path. They stepped into a room bustling with flickering monitors, diagrams plastered on the walls, and what seemed to be an array of files neatly stacked yet disheveled in appearance. Maria's stomach churned. "What is all of this?" "Information," the man replied without turning around. "Hidden truths about families, identities, and a legacy that intertwines with yours." James stepped forward, urgency in his voice. "What do you know about us?" The man finally turned, his gaze piercing through the dimness. "More than you think. You both are standing at the crossroads of two worlds, one shrouded in secrecy and another that's just beginning to wake up." Maria's voice trembled. "We're not here to play games. We just want the truth." "Very well," the man said, pushing a file across the table towards them. "But once you open this door, there's no going back." With a hesitant hand, Maria reached for the folder. As she flipped it open, the words inside sent warmth rushing to her face, replacing the cold dread that had enveloped her. What does this mean?" "Your choices will define the future," the man responded cryptically. "Trust the evidence. It will lead you to decisions that may change everything." As Maria and James processed the implications of the documents before them, the warehouse suddenly felt like a prison closing in on them, sealing them away from the lives they thought they understood. "What are we supposed to do with this?" James asked, the fight echoing in his voice, but uncertainty lingered. Before the man could answer, the power abruptly cut out, plunging them into darkness. The whirring machines went silent, and a distant sound echoed in the stillness, one that felt all too familiar, as if footsteps were creeping ever closer, ready to unearth their buried secrets. "What was that?" Maria gasped, feeling her heart pounding anew. James pulled her tightly to his side, his face set with determination. "Whatever it is, we face it together. But we should find a way out. Now." With that, they began to run, not just from the encroaching darkness, but from the revelations that might come rushing back into their lives. What danger awaited them outside, and were they truly ready for the implications of the truth they sought? Chaos erupted in the warehouse as Maria and James sprinted into the unknown. The darkness felt alive, wrapping around them like a shroud. Every shadow seemed to pulse with energy, every creak of the floorboards beneath their hurried steps echoed like a heartbeat. "Which way?" Maria gasped, her breath running short. Fear clawed at her insides, but she couldn't focus on it now. Not when they were so close to uncovering something that could change everything. "Back the way we came," James shouted, leading the way. The adrenaline coursing through him made him feel invincible, yet every instinct screamed at him that they were being hunted. They skidded to a halt in front of the creaking door they had entered through. Anxiety surged through Maria as she grasped the doorknob, her mind racing. What if they were too late? What if the secrets they sought were already lost to them? "Come on," James urged, before slamming his shoulder against the door. It didn't budge. Panic flared again, and Maria threw her weight against it, but it held fast. "What's happening?" she cried, eyes darting around the room for any other way out. The flickering bulbs offered little reassurance. "It must be locked. We need to find another exit," James replied, his voice steady, but she could hear the strain creeping in. He turned, scanning the room. "There." He pointed to a shadowy archway across the space, partly obscured by stacks of boxes. Without waiting for a reply, he took off in that direction, feet pounding against the concrete floor, urging her forward. They pushed past the jagged crates, feeling splinters scratch their arms. Maria's heart raced with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. It wasn't just about danger anymore, it was about the truth and the thriving urge within her to discover the secrets that tied her fate to the warehouse. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the pretense of safety. It echoed through the space, reverberating against the walls and making them flinch. Maria spun around, her body tense, but James was already ahead. "Keep moving," he yelled, glancing back at her, fear etched on his face. They ducked into the dark archway, the air heavy with dust filled the sudden silence. As they walked further in, Maria's pulse quickened. The dim light illuminated a narrow passageway that seemed to descend into the depths of the building. "No turning back now," Maria whispered, more to herself than to him. She felt a pull, an inexplicable connection to whatever lay ahead, and she couldn't shake the feeling that the answers were waiting just for them. They exchanged a determined look before descending the concrete steps. Each footfall resonated with purpose. Their hands stayed clenched together, a lifeline bridging the growing distance between trust and uncertainty. At the bottom, they burst into a room that was cluttered but unlike any they had seen before. Old photographs were scattered around, and files with creased edges lay haphazardly on a table. A large map hung on the wall, marked with various locations, some inked heavily, others barely visible. It felt as if history was alive in this space, whispering their names. They moved in closer, scanning the walls and papers. James' eyes widened as he recognized a familiar surname. "Wait, this is my family," he exclaimed, pointing to a faded, old picture. Tension exploded in Maria's chest. "What? No, this can't be. Why are we in a place that has?" Before she could finish, a light flicked on and illuminated the whole room. It pulled them both into the moment, awakening senses they hadn't been fully aware of. Standing at the entrance was the man in black, the intensity in his gaze sharper than ever. "Welcome to the heart of your legacies," he said, his voice a deep rumble. "It's time you all discover what binds you to this world." Maria's heart plummeted as the weight of his words settled in. A new urgency enveloped the room, intertwining with fear and hope. "What are you saying?" she asked, half of her dreading the answer. "You're closer to the truth than you think, but this time, it's not just about you. James." His gaze shifted to her, leaving goosebumps on her skin. She felt the gravity of the moment. Understanding danced just beyond her reach, and dread filled her with every heartbeat. What exactly had she stumbled into? What ties between them were so profound they couldn't have seen them before? And as James looked at her, realization dousing the fire of certainty, she wondered if revelations were indeed worth the price they'd pay. James swallowed hard, his heart pounding in time with the unsettling rhythm of the warehouse. The man in black took a step forward, the light glinting off a small object in his hand, a key, or perhaps something more ominous. It was as if he was a puppeteer, and the strings of their fate were tangled around them, drawing them closer to a conclusion they never anticipated. "I don't understand," James stammered, glancing at Maria, whose face was a mixture of confusion and anger. "What does my family have to do with this?" The man's lips curled into a slight smile, one that didn't reach his eyes. "Your family, like many others, has been part of a lineage intertwined with power and secrets. These photos," he waved his hand, indicating the scattered images around them, "hold the key to your past, your legacy." Maria stepped closer to the wall, details falling into place. "But how can it be? I mean, why would we be in a place like this?" Her voice trembled, uncertainty gnawing at her thoughts. "Because your destinies are enmeshed," he replied smoothly, eyes glimmering. "Maria, you have a part to play. This is not merely James's family story, it's yours too." The words slashed through the tension, building grave uncertainty between them. She shook her head, breaths shallow. "No, that's impossible. I'm just a cleaner, a nobody." "You underestimate your importance," the man in black said, a hint of annoyance flickering in his tone. "Each person here has a role to fulfill. You are both guided by the same bloodline, a truth that can't be denied." Even though the room felt swallowed by shadows, a rush of warmth enveloped her. Could what he said be true? Was there a deeper connection she had never grasped? The thought was intoxicating and terrifying at the same time. James looked at her, and in that moment, a silent agreement passed between them. "What do we have to do?" he asked, determination pooling in his eyes. "Your journey begins now," the man asserted. He stepped back, palms open, inviting them into the heart of the mystery. "You have to confront the past. The obsolete alliances, legacies unfulfilled. And it starts with one simple question: who are you truly? Maria felt nausea coil within her. This was more than she signed up for. Yet inside her lurked a flicker of courage. Despite the overwhelming shadows, she understood this was a call to arms. The fight was just beginning, and they had to uncover whatever secrets were hidden within the lives they unwittingly inherited. The man in black moved toward the table, picking up an old photograph. This is your family history, James, your ties to this place. And it's time you start owning what you uncover. As Maria and James crowded closer, eyes glued to the image in the man's hands, Maria felt a chill. Something about it seemed familiar, nostalgia clawing at her. Wait, she murmured, recognition flashing. I've seen this before. With her heart racing, Maria took a deep breath. She thought about the whispers within her, the fragments of her life that years of cleaning never revealed. Digging into the murky depths of her own past felt daunting, yet the stakes were too high to ignore. The man's gaze was piercing. Everything is connected, Maria. And now you need to decide if you will unravel these webs or stay ensnared in them. Time is running short. Jumbled emotions surged through her as she exchanged glances with James. The weight of potential truths hung heavily in the air. Would they step fully into this unknown and discover things they might wish they never knew? With the flicker of his fingers, the man in black gestured for them to begin. Was she ready? With a single nod from James, they took a step together towards the photographs, forcing themselves to confront what lay behind them. But as Maria reached for the image, a blaring alarm tore through the quiet, jarring her focus. Lights flickered, shadows danced wildly on the walls, and chaos re-emerged. Run! James screamed, adrenaline propelling them forward as the reality of their situation sank in once more. With their heartbeats echoing in their ears, they dashed back into the hall, leaving behind the haunting suspicions that had begun to weave around them. Where do we go now? Maria shouted above the din, panic threatening to seize her. Somewhere it all begins, James yelled, determination stealing his voice. We can't leave without knowing. And just as they made the turn, more questions emerged from the abyss. They might find answers in the truth, but at what cost? As the shadows cloaked them once more, an unsettling truth lingered: sometimes, pursuing the past can lead to a future they never anticipated. The echo of their footsteps bounced wildly off the cold warehouse walls as they raced forward, no clear direction in sight. The alarm blared like a wounded animal, an urgent reminder that they were not alone in this game of shadows. Maria's mind was spinning, thoughts colliding as adrenaline surged through her veins. James, should we split up? She suggested breathlessly, hoping to shake off the suffocating moment of uncertainty. No. We stick together. He grabbed her hand tighter, grounding her in this chaos, even as panic threatened to unravel them both. They veered left down a narrow corridor, its dim lighting barely illuminating the path ahead. Shadows flickered like doubts in their minds. Maria's heart raced, but she felt something more than fear, an inkling of determination. The question hung heavy in the air: what truth lay just out of reach? Rounding another corner, they stumbled into a cluttered room filled with old machinery and stacks of boxes. It reeked of must and forgotten memories. James's face twisted with frustration. Nothing here. We need a way out. Wait. Maria pointed to a motley stack of crates pushed against the far wall. What about those? Together, they hurried over, fear and urgency blending into a potent mix of desperation. As they cleared the boxes, a door loomed behind. It looked barely used, but the rusty handle had a promise to it: escape, perhaps even answers. Let us see where this leads, James said, hope flickering in his voice. He jerked the handle, and the door creaked open to reveal a narrow staircase spiraling upward. Maria hesitated, the chill of unknown fears clawing at her throat. What if it's a trap? She glanced back at the dark room they just cleared, feeling the weight of every unanswered question. We don't have a choice, do we? We either find the truth or we're trapped here forever. Together, he said, his voice resolute. They ascended the steps, each footfall echoing their resolve. At the top, a sliver of light peeked from under another door. This time, it felt like a beacon guiding them. James pressed his ear against it, listening. I don't hear anything. We'll have to push through. With a shared nod, they flung the door open, light spilling around them like a warm embrace. They were in a small office, filled with the detritus of a past they were just beginning to unravel. Papers were strewn everywhere, and an old wood desk sat at the center, its surface cluttered with articles and familiar photographs. Maria squinted at the plastic-wrapped file in the corner. Her hands trembled as she reached for it. James, look. He joined her, eyes widening as they unveiled forgotten stories. There, plain as day, were documents linking their families, tales of intertwined lives and missing pieces. What is all this? James breathed, disbelief etching lines on his face. I think it's what he was talking about, Maria whispered, unrolling a particularly yellowed photo. Her breath caught. There was something incredibly familiar about the faces gathered around the table. Just as revelation settled in, a voice cut through the air, rough and jarring. Looking for something? Their hearts dropped. The man in black stood in the doorway, blocking their only escape. You were supposed to find it sooner, he said, a predatory grin creeping across his lips. But now you've walked right into my trap. Fear flooded Maria's veins. Was it all a setup? With their minds racing and hearts pounding, they faced the man who held the keys to their lives, and one thing was clear, the past was not finished with them yet. In that tiny office filled with mystery and revelation, they realized the chase was just beginning. What truths would they uncover in this twisted tale? And at what cost? Maria and James stood frozen, their minds racing. The man in black loomed in the doorway, a dark silhouette against the harsh light of the office. Tension crackled in the air, making each of Maria's heartbeats feel like an echo in a cavernous space. Why are you doing this? James demanded, stepping protectively in front of Maria, instinctively shielding her from this man who had already twisted their lives upside down. Why? The man chuckled, a chilling sound that brought goosebumps to Maria's skin. Because you're both key players in a game much larger than you understand. Your families are interconnected in ways that could shake the foundations of what you know. James inhaled sharply, the weight of this truth hitting him hard. No, this isn't a game. Our lives aren't pawns in your twisted plans. We're real people with real stories. Exactly. And that's why it's so fascinating, the man replied, a gleam of madness igniting in his eyes. You see, James, you inherit everything: the wealth, the connections, even the secrets. And Maria, your story has been hidden, but it's just as important. Together, you could change everything. But only if you understand your true legacy. Maria felt as if the ground beneath her was shifting. What do you mean, our legacy? What's all this? She waved her hand toward the documents spread across the desk. The man stepped closer, a predatory glint in his eye. These are merely the threads of your history, but you have the opportunity to weave them into something beautiful. Or you could choose to let it unravel and return to the shadows. Why should we trust you? James shot back, anger simmering just below the surface. You've manipulated us from the start. Because whether you like it or not, I'm offering you a choice, he returned, coolly gesturing towards the papers. Answer the questions of your past, and you might just discover your purpose. Or ignore them and live in oblivion, shackled to your fears and doubts. Maria felt something shift within her. Courage ignited like a flame, flickering but surprisingly fierce. She stepped boldly toward the man, locking eyes with him. You may think you control this, but you don't. We've already stepped into the light of what we can become. We're not turning back. His smile twisted into something menacing. That's cute, Maria. But you're still in danger. You don't know who's watching. Just then, the power surged back, the alarm silenced, and reality hit Maria like a wave. She glanced at James, then back at the man in black. "Are you really ready to risk everything? You think we'll be intimidated by a little danger?" With newfound resolve, James stood beside her, shoulders squared. "We'll confront whatever comes next, together." The man regarded them both, his expression faltering as something registered in his mind. "You too. This kind of defiance doesn't come easily. But understand this: every action has consequences." Averting his eyes, the man took one step back and then another, retreating into the shadows. "You have until dawn to make your choice. I'll be watching, and so will others who don't have your best interests at heart." As he disappeared into the darkness, the tension thickened, the silence replacing the chaos with eerie calm. "What just happened?" Maria said incredulously, adrenaline still thrumming her veins. "Was that a warning or a threat?" James shook his head, a mix of relief and determination washing over him. "We now have the chance to rewrite our stories, Maria. The truth is in front of us, and we're not backing down." She let out a breath, glancing at the scattered documents. "So, what do we do now?" "We explore this legacy," he replied, one hand reaching out to touch the photograph that had captivated their attention moments before. "We dig into what our families came from. How their pasts intertwine with ours." With renewed vigor, they sifted through the files, piecing together histories and connections that each told a part of their shared heritage. The answers they sought were like puzzle pieces fitting together, revealing a bigger picture that felt right. Hours fled by quickly, the urgency hanging over them, pushing them to uncover more. As dawn approached, their drive began to morph into a palpable sense of purpose. They drew strength from each other, shoulders brushing against one another in solidarity. Finally, they stood back, surveying the remnants of what they'd uncovered. "This is only the beginning," Maria whispered, filled to the brim with emotion. James nodded, eyes shining with determination. "Together, we can create a new legacy, a narrative of hope and resilience. We are not just connected by blood, we are united by our will to change." With the sun peeking through the broken windows, painting their surroundings with light, they felt a new chapter unfolding, a chance to create ripples of transformation that could shake the very foundations of their worlds. "No more shadows," Maria declared firmly, taking a deep breath. "We step into the light now." They clasped hands tightly, ready to face whatever the day had in store for them. They were no longer daunted by the weight of the past, they were determined to honor it by shaping a future that embraced both their stories. This was their moment, the launching point of a journey that would redefine who they were and how their legacies would be written. And as they stepped through the door, leaving the past behind, they felt lighter, invigorated, and ready to blaze a path forward, hand in hand, igniting change one step at a time. The dawn was breaking, and with it, a new beginning rose from the ashes of uncertainty. Now, it's time for you to take action. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire your heart and change perspectives. Leave a like right now to feed the algorithm and help others discover this impact. Comment below with your raw emotions and thoughts about this ending. Let's spark a conversation. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformational journey. This is the moment to show your support and join a community that believes in embracing stories that matter.